Hello and welcome to the first video of this course in C#. In this first video I will focus on data types. So if you're brand new to C# or just want to freshen up your data types knowledge, then let's jump straight into the code so we can learn what data types are. So now I'm inside Visual Studio, and when we talk about data types, we need to know that there is two types of data types. We have a value type and we have a reference type. The most common value types that we use are the int, the double, the bool, and a char. And in reference types, the most used reference types are string and objects. I will tell you the difference between value types and reference types, but first of all I think that we should see what an int actually is, and a double, a bool, and a char. So if we just take them one by one, we do have a int, and when we declare a variable, we need to insert the data type first and then the name of the variable. So if we call this my variable, then we can go and set it equal to like 10. And in C# we need to set this semicolon to actually end the line of the code. So now we have actually declared a int variable, or an integer as it's also called. And an integer can take a whole number. So for example 10. It can also keep -10. Because an int is a 32-bit data type, then it actually do have a minimum and a maximum value. So it can take down to -2.1 billion and up to 2.1 billion and something. If you need a higher or a lower value, you might want to use a data type like a long, but just to keep it simple, I will not cover that here. So let's go to our next data type, which is also a value type. It's our double. So we can say double. And again, just call it my var. And this time we want to specify a decimal number like 0.0. So a double is just like a decimal number, because an int cannot hold a decimal number, but a double can. So you could, for example, say 2010. Our next data type is bool, and a bool is quite simple, because we can say bool and let's say my bool, and you can see if I hit tab now, then you can see Visual Studio help me to finish this line, because we could just say my bool, which is the variable name, and then the value. And a bool in C# can be false or it can be true. And our final value type is char. And just to point out, there is more than these 4 value types. These are just the most common that I have picked out, and also to give you a good variation of value type. But let's go down to our char again. And if I hit space, you can see that it automatically want to give this a name. So I'll just hit tab, and then we want to specify which character that we want to insert, because char is actually short for character, which is just one letter. And to put that one character into our variable, we need to use the single quotes. And let's say that we want to put X inside, and we end the line. And the thing that is important here is that you use single quote and not double quote, because if we use double quote, you can see that it actually came with an error, because it says that you cannot implicitly convert a string to a char. So when making double quotes, we actually create a string that we have down here, and in just a moment we will make a variable with a string. So now I'll just take it back to single quotes. But next let's go down and create a string variable. So we type string, and we can say my string, and we need to use the double quotes, and let's just say this is a string and end the line. And if you wonder why these are green and they have green underline all our variables, then it's because you can see here that the variable my string is assigned, but it's never used. And that's just because we only declare the variable, but we never actually use it to anything. As you might notice with our string, then you can see we have a sentence in here, and that's actually the power of a string, that you can create variables with the data type of string to hold some text. The last reference type and data type I have for now is object, and it's a bit hard to give an example because we don't have any objects that we can put into the object variable that we're going to create. So I'll just create a object and say my object and put it equal to null, just as it suggests right now. So when I say that it's null, then we actually say that this variable right now do not have any value of any kind. But if you would like to put a value inside the object, and if you are a total beginner to C#, I don't expect you to understand this. But what we would put inside a object is, like, we could say that we had a person object, And what that person object is that it would actually just be a collection of some information about a person. And then we would type it like this, and we could put it in instead of null, so like this. But now we get an error because we do not have defined this person. So I'll just say null. But this would be a thing that you would learn if you go to learn some object-oriented programming, also called OOP. But now the last thing in this video is to show what the difference is between a value type and a reference type, because when you look at how we define the variables, it doesn't look that different. And that's because the value type and reference type is referring to how it's stored inside the memory of the computer. So let's say, for example, we have a integer, and this variable has the value of -10. So in the memory of the computer, this variable would have a direct line to the value inside the memory. And what I mean by that is that if we go and copy the variable, and let's put this equal to my variable again and say +1, then if we would run this script, it would create the variable first, and that would take up the my variable place inside our memory. And then when it executes the next line, it will take my variable and plus it with 1, so that would be -9, and then it would just replace the value in my variable to -9. And it will seem pretty logical that it will do that, and that's the kind we call value types. And what you can say is that you can edit this my variable directly in the memory, but with a reference type you cannot edit it. When you have declared this variable with the string, this is a string, then you cannot change this actual variable. You can override it, but you cannot change this string anymore. And that's just because this variable is now a reference to the value that is inside our memory. So if we take an example with my string, copy this, and let's set that equal to my string, and let's set that to upper. So by calling this method on my string, it will make this string all uppercase. So what it's doing behind the scene is that it actually go and delete this string that we have here, my string, and replace it with the uppercase string that we just created. So as I just type here, now the variable will look like this. But we never actually changed anything inside this string. It just removed the string and put the new string variable that we created inside my string. So the important thing to understand here is that we override this string and we didn't change it, because a string cannot be changed in that way. If you, for example, have some code that would remove the last part, or just the G, the last G in our string, so that it would look like this, then it will take the whole string and override our variable and not just delete the last letter. I hope the value types and the reference types make sense, or else you can also go to my blog and read about it. I will put a link in the description. Please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel, and else I'll just see you in the next video. Bye.